Welcome to Disrupt the Drift. I am Baron Baptiste. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about what is a crisis in the world. People have lost a sense of purpose. Not all, but so many people are drifting along somewhat in a state of loss or lost, the experience of having lost themselves, a loss of purpose, a loss of direction, loss of vision. As it says in the Bible, a people without vision perish. David, how you doing today?
Fantastic. Great to be here with you, Baron.
Yeah, I want to talk about fulfilling on purpose and maybe where to look for purpose. We did a recent episode on purpose, but I think it's such a valuable question in the world of uncertainty that we're living in. What say you, David? What's your take on purpose and fulfilling on purpose? I also want to talk about passion a little bit and where that comes into play with one's purpose.
Words mean things. And this is what people tend to ignore when it comes to when you say something to somebody. It's probably a good idea to mean it. And if you don't mean it, don't say it. So I'm going to this idea that words mean things because the question is, do you know the purpose for your life? That's a big question. So I go to the dictionary because I want to understand what the meaning of this word is. And in order for me to get a clear perspective on it, I got to know what it means. And here's the meaning of the word purpose. Purpose is the end for which something is done, created, or for which it exists. It is part of the topic of intentionality. So the question then goes to, what is your life? What's the purpose of your life? Now, I remember when I was 13 years old, I asked that essential question. I'm standing I remember the moment like it was yesterday, standing at the bus stop, waiting to go to 7th grade, dreading every second of it. And I stood there and this question came to me: why am I here? What's the meaning, the purpose of my life? At 13 years old. And if you don't ask the question, you're never going to get the answer. So you've got to start asking, why am I here? What is the purpose? And so here again, purpose is the end for which something is done, created, or for which it exists. Why do you exist? Is it just to take care of number one, to eat, sleep, and be merry? What's the purpose, and what is it that makes you feel like your life is fulfilling? You want to talk about fulfilling on purpose? You can't fulfill on what you don't know you should be doing. So you have to ask that question. What do you think, Baron?
Yeah, it's if you don't know, where are you going to go other than in circles? There's the vertical in life, there's a horizontal. And I think when we lack purpose, we're running around in circles on the horizontal. On the bottom of the mountain, we're running around in circles rather than climbing the mountain. And I took a pause in life. I took a couple years off mid-pandemic. I said, I'm going to just press pause here and let the next purpose in my life reveal itself to me. And maybe better said, stay open to what is pulling me, like what interests me, what that calling, the inner prompting of my conscience, my intuition, sensing what interests me, what's the direction there. And I think something about purpose, people are always, I know a lot of people that are always saying, what's my purpose? I'm looking for my purpose. I'm looking for what I want to do. What am I passionate about? And I don't know if that's the place to look. I think that a good place to look is find your focus, find your talent, not your passion. Because usually people telling you to find your passion, they're already rich or they're already successful. They've already accomplished a lot. And the guy telling you to follow your passion has his billions and he's made it in whatever, the stock market, or he's made it in some kind of some industry or something that he or she wasn't necessarily passionate about. Oprah gets up there and talks about find your passion. But if you back up a little bit, what creates passion to me is mastery. You want to be the top of whatever it is you're doing. You want to become the best at it, best in class, best in the world. You want to develop a ninja like command of something. And it could be anything. I have a tax guy, and the guy is so passionate about taxes, on how to save money on taxes or how to do taxes. But but the thing, and I asked him, I said, "You're so passionate about it." I said, "Were you always passionate about taxes?" No, it never interested me, but I got a job in that world, in that realm. And he goes, I just developed skills in it. And then it was like the skills, as the better I got at it, and the more skills and the more mastery, expertise I got, the more I got inspired about it, passionate about it. And then working with people and bringing it all together, the mastery gave him something. And what I thought about that, because I wasn't always, I'll take yoga, for example. When I started teaching yoga, I had an interest in it, teaching it, sharing it, because I'm wired like that. If I find something that's good for me, healthy for me, develops me, I grow, I just naturally want to share it with others. And so when I first started teaching yoga, it was really because I loved it for myself. And then I wanted to teach others. I wasn't a very good teacher. And so I would teach classes, but I was passionate about the top. I had an interest in the topic because I knew the benefits of it. But the teaching of it, I really didn't have a lot of passion. I just wanted to get good enough so I could teach a good class so that people could get the benefits. But the more I taught and the more skillful I became in teaching that class, and I developed mastery in delivering a class, a power yoga class, suddenly a natural passion and inspiration emerged from that, being good at something, being great at something, having a command of something. That's where I found that interest. It went from teaching yoga class to then getting bored. That kind of got boring for me. So now I'm going to train other instructors. And I wasn't very good at that at first. But the more I kept training other instructors and teachers how to teach a power yoga class, I got a proficiency in that. Started developing a skillfulness and effectiveness in delivering a training that trained other trainers in a very effective way. The more mastery I got in that, then I started getting more passion, more natural, just energy, creativity, inspiration that would keep me going down that trajectory, if that makes sense. I could keep going on because at a certain point I was like, hey, I've done this. What's my next purpose, the bridge from what I'm doing that I've got mastery, that still I can bring my skills over and keep developing, but you follow a natural trajectory. It's not forced. It's not a concept in your head. You're following a pathway, but it's built out of skill. You want to find a focus. You want to find a talent. That's where purpose starts opening up naturally, I think, in my experience. Yeah.
What's interesting, though, about what you said was that, and I think most people would agree, that where you hear the word passion used most often is in the arena of love or sexual longing.
Yeah, or an emotional component as well. Yeah.
Yeah. In a sense, the passion is a multifaceted word. And in my understanding, it starts with the suffering of Christ between the night of the Last Supper and his death. And that's the suffering part. Now, that part in the dictionary is said to be obsolete, but I don't think so. And then there's the emotion.
I don't know what that means exactly, but
it's not used anymore. The idea of suffering and passion has been replaced by the idea of emotion and affection or love.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important because if you look at the idea that we were talking about purpose, and I'll go back to the definition of purpose, which is to the end for which something is done, created, or for which it exists. So then you ask yourself, okay, let's just talk about the essential use of the word passion, the suffering of Christ between the night of the Last Supper and his death. That's suffering. He suffered. He really suffered. And then you go and add to that, what was the purpose of the Christ's life on earth? And part of it was the end result was suffering for the right reasons. Not for the wrong reasons, but for the right reasons. And then there are all kinds of...
and suffering wasn't the end game. There was a bigger purpose.
I do believe suffering was part of the end game.
Because it was a part of it.
Yeah.
But the end game was the restoration of humanity and the restoration of love. And what else? We could keep going down there.
Well, no, because...
But it was a part of the journey, right?
Yes, but here's the thing, and most people don't understand.
Yeah.
And you said earlier in this conversation, don't go after the things that you have passion for. Go after a skill. Isn't that what you said?
Yes.
To that effect.
As a starting place, yeah.
Right. Most people who have a passion for anything equally have a degree of maybe a disproportionate degree of suffering that goes along with that passion.
Yeah, very good. Totally. If I
Yeah.
look at the suffering that came along with developing skills, developing mastery in an area, the failures, I'll go back to my started teaching yoga classes. I wasn't very good at it. It was that in of itself was painful because I think when you're a beginner at something, you suck.
Yeah.
And so there's that kind of suffering. No, different than the kind of suffering you're talking about with Christ we're not talking about being pinned up on a cross with spears in you, but the suffering that comes along with the mastery of anything that is a part of the journey. Is that what you're pointing to?
It is. I mean, when you're going to do anything right, there's a saying, no pain, no gain. So my son is a bodybuilder. He works out at least 2 hours a day, sometimes 4. He comes home and all he does is say how much he hurts. But see, the result, and again, this goes back to the purpose. He wants to be a bodybuilder. The purpose is the end for which something is done, created, or for which it exists. And then goes into the idea of it's part of the topic of intentionality. So let's talk about the passions that make you miserable. For example, in relationships, I don't know that there's a relationship that ever existed that wasn't subject to the suffering of that passion. Love and hate are two horns on the same goat. There's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah.
And so you go after that thing that you have that passion for. And so then you go to this idea that damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you get what you want, then you find out that it wasn't exactly what you expected it to be or thought it to be anyway. And if you don't go after it, then you never learn that lesson and you sit there frustrated. So there's a pain involved, both sides of that equation, see?
Yeah.
And then I want to say what Sir Francis Bacon said, and I don't want to hear you, but Sir Francis Bacon said this: the state or capacity for being acted on by external agents or forces. Now, again, we talked about this a lot in the last couple of sessions about how the social media can inflict terrible pain upon us. When we get rejected, we're looking for approval and attention. And then we go through the suffering that is involved with trying to project. You talked about I just listened to our last podcast, you talked about walked around at some point managing people's perceptions of you. Look at how much energy can go into this kind of thing.
Can consume your life.
It does. So we're talking about...
And then it becomes your master and you become a slave to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it
absolutely.
determines what you do in life or what you don't do. You don't follow your passion because you're so scared of what other people will think of you. I used to be so scared of what other people would think of me,
Yeah.
and getting the affirmation of others, and worrying about failing publicly and being shamed. And but now, knowing at a certain point, I something hit me. It was like a revelation, and I've lived and I have it now, that revelation, and it really formed me, redirected me, corrected course for me. But it
Mm.
was just, I got really present to knowing that everyone I was worried about is going to be dead. And so am I in 50
Mm.
years. It hit me when we're all going to be dead at a certain point.
Yeah.
And we're walking around worried about what people think. They're going to be dead. I'm going to be dead. And it was a kind of unlock for me. And I think it helped me to love out loud more, put my voice on loudspeaker, wear my life and purpose on my sleeve. Gave me more confidence to just take rest and just being myself in the world and being true to what I'm up to. And also for me, it's made me a little bit more motivated
Mm.
in articulating how strongly I feel about some people in the world. And that's been a big unlock, that revelation of just, we're all going to be dead. What are we going around trying to get people's approval, getting people to like us,
Yeah.
not following our inner promptings because we're worried of what people are going to think?
Yeah. Such a powerful
Yeah.
realization. Totally awesome. Powerful.
Yeah, I've said this before, but what Abraham Lincoln said, as soon as you rise above the crowd, people are going to throw stones.
Mm.
And the fear is that we're going to be judged. And then the good thing to know is that you're already being judged. If you're a sloth or you're just going along to get along, people are going to judge you if you're being weak. And either way, people that judge are going to judge. And you can't do anything about that. You may as well set yourself free and true up to a
I want to.
purpose.
I
Yeah.
want to though. I want to go see purpose and passion are in a sense eternally intertwined. And the reason I say that is because of, I'm going to read Sir Francis Bacon again. He said, the state or capacity of being acted on by external agents or forces. This is a passion. And so think about this, is that with the life of Christ, the passion was inextricably woven into every moment of his existence. He came into this world to be a sacrifice, and he knew it. And so, if that's true, then think about ourselves. And what was he here for? He was here to save the world. This is a theme that runs through the Matrix movie. And him
It's,
and Neo
mhm.
being the one. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the Matrix, but it's a brilliant movie for so many years.
I need to watch it still. I can't. I'm probably the only person on the planet who
So,
hasn't watched
so
it. I need to.
Matrix was
Yeah.
the Matrix was a sort of an analogy, a modern day analogy or example of this idea of a person coming into the world having a special purpose, and that purpose is to save the human race. And then when he was surrounded by the people who were in the storyline, the one who betrayed him, the Judas in this storyline says, so what a head trip to be the one. I don't even know if people can comprehend the idea that that somebody will come into this world just to end up being a sacrifice to save the whole human race.
All right. You all, thank you for listening. This is Baron Baptiste. If you would like us to respond to your questions, I know there's a bunch in there I haven't gotten to. We will. But you could send those to disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please the video, subscribe to the channel, Disrupt the Drift. Leave comments, share the show. Please share the show. We grow the show through you. Stay true, you all. Keep disrupting the drift within yourself and without. And until next time, peace be with you.